Whether it's with nagging, attacking your self-esteem, or guilt, if your partner frequently uses negative emotions to get you to do what they want, it's a good sign you're heading for a toxic relationship. Another early sign of a toxic relationship is when they say what they think you want to hear, but then later their actions don't match their words. For example, saying they care about you, but then being purposefully hurtful.
I don't ever want to hurt you.
Yeah, okay.
And try not to ruin the next one.
I'm happy to move on. I got bigger and better coming.
Put weight on.
Another example would be promising to support you in something, but then not following through.
If we broke up last year, it was like anything you need to make him disappear, and I needed his help, like his support.
As outside observers, it's obvious to us that if she gets back together with someone who's promised to help her and then abandoned her, he'll just continue to promise the world and then underdeliver. But she gets back with him anyway. Why? Because when you like someone, you want the nice things they say to be true. That's why it's important that you maintain strong relationships outside of your romantic one. Your friends and family are often going to have a more accurate and less biased view of your relationship than you do. In fact, another early sign that your relationship is toxic is if your friends and family don't like your relationship. This seems obvious when you're not in the relationship, but when emotions are involved, many people suddenly find themselves ignoring the advice of the people around them.
My family doesn't know about this decision right now. I'm worried about how they're going to react when I tell them that I am married. And they did have some doubts about our relationship.
And this rarely ends well.
What is the problem? I am coming back. I am coming back now.
Here's another example where an 18-year-old girl is marrying a 27-year-old guy that she's been dating for less than a year. Reasonably, her friends have reservations about it, but she just ignores them.
So you're going to be married before your 1-year anniversary even comes up?
Yes, actually, yes.
That is crazy, Evelyn.
Maybe to you.
Tuning out your loved ones can be dangerous when you're just in the early stages of a relationship. At the same time, you don't want to let other people decide how you live your life. So a good question to ask yourself is the person giving you advice someone you respect and someone who has had relationships you would want? If so, then that is a good sign to listen to their concerns. These strong external relationships are so helpful in preventing a toxic relationship that sometimes people will proactively try to distance you from your friends and family. They know that if they can weaken these ties, they'll force you to be more dependent on them for love and therefore more uncomfortable about the idea of breaking up with them and living without them. This can take many forms, but one common one is trying to stop you from going out at night without them.
They're concerned because they're like, well, I told them that you're not into
Another warning sign is that they try to control who you text with, like this woman who tries to get this guy to stop texting any woman he's not related to.
Acting like everyone that is texting me is like intimacy to me.
You're about to be married. Don't answer. Literally, you shouldn't be answering anyone but your family members.
No matter how you ended up here, whether it's because of infidelity or just insecurity, when you reach the point where one person can't trust the other to behave with integrity unless they're supervised, it's time to end the relationship. The restrictions will only get worse over time.
I definitely don't have good luck in finding faithful men. From this point on, I can't leave the house without telling you.
The reason people stay in relationships like this is actually the same whether you're the jealous partner obsessed with control or the restricted partner allowing yourself to be bullied. For both parties, they're not confident that they can find someone else they like who will be with them. This lack of confidence and self-esteem is a common factor in toxic relationships. I'll talk more about how to boost your confidence and self-esteem at the end of the video. Now, one big reason why friends and family might have a different opinion of your significant other than you do is because sometimes in toxic relationships, we see our significant others not as they are, but as we want them to be. An early sign that you're projecting more onto your partner than they actually are is if you develop strong feelings before you know them. The most extreme example of this is love at first sight, like this woman falling in love from the dating pool. This can seem romantic, and certainly being that infatuated feels amazing at the time, but it shows you created an idea of someone and fallen in love with that invented version of them. We saw earlier how well that worked out for this guy.
The days that I've been like beyond anything that I could ever dream of.
If you feel yourself falling hard for someone in a relatively short period of time, that's fine. But it's important not to make any permanent decisions based on that infatuation. You just don't want to end up like this woman who wants to marry a man she's never even met.
John in person before. And I am hoping for a proposal.
This may seem like an extreme example, but situations like this actually play out all the time, whether it's eloping, moving in together, having a baby. This is especially dangerous because it's very common for toxic relationships to start well. In fact, a toxic partner will often make a better first impression than average because they wear more of a facade in the beginning of a relationship than most people do. Then once they know they have you hooked, their behavior gets worse.
8 months of this online relationship with Jennifer. We're finally here in Colombia together. But our first moments in person have been a little rough.
Now, almost all relationships involve some amount of fighting, but if you find your relationship is like a roller coaster with a lot of extreme highs and extreme lows, it's a good sign that it's a toxic relationship.
I think we're gonna be fine. I mean, we fought a lot, but we established that that's us.
If you find that you've started to normalize things like fighting or constant breakups, then it's time to recognize your relationship may be built more on addiction and codependence than on happiness. You don't want to be describing your relationship like this.
Over the last few months, make up and break up almost every day.
The biggest issue that leads to these toxic relationships is a lack of self-esteem and confidence. With true confidence, no one would behave this way or put up with this type of behavior. If something in this video has resonated with you, maybe you've seen these behaviors in yourself or in a past relationship, I highly recommend you check out Charisma University. It's our step-by-step guided program that's the fastest way I know of to build more confidence. It will also help you take your charisma to the next level, giving you more options in dating so that you won't be scared of winding up alone. Now, you can read all about the details in the link below, but I figured the best way to let you know what this is all about is just to let the members speak for themselves. So here are just a few of the things that CU members have written in via email or the course comments. The first one comes from a guy who saw major improvements in his social and dating life. He says, life-changing. In 6 weeks, I went from being socially awkward with few friends to the life of every event I attend. I also went from having serious girl problems to dating the girl of my dreams. This next person used to struggle socially and saw major improvements after CU. They said, through most of early adulthood, I was shy, timid, and took a defensive stance on social interactions. Now I am more confident in social situations, will talk to literally anyone about anything, will have a good time even if no one else is, and I'm more in control in interactions in my career and just happier. And this last one is from a woman who had just gotten back from a speaking tour. She says, last year I joined CU right before 2 public speaking events. Though I didn't do anything too terribly embarrassing while on stage, my lack of confidence was obvious to everyone in the room. Fast forward to this weekend, I owned the stage and spoke to over 2,000 business owners. It was so powerful that even my marketing assistant was completely lost for words. There are more success stories just like those in the comments if you decide to join the course. If you do join, it comes with a 60-day money-back guarantee, which is 100% for any reason at all. And it's 60 days, even though the course is only 30 days, because I want to make sure every single person truly feels like they're getting a ton from the course. Otherwise, you can just refund it. So if you want to check out the course, go ahead and click the link on screen now or below in the description. We've had thousands of members go through this course and get a ton out of it. I hope that you decide to join if this is an area of your life that you're looking to improve. Either way, I hope you like this video, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.
Not created equal, at least in size. Millions of little boys grow up to be short men. And if you're not one of them, you're about to find out how size can dramatically affect a man's life.
Stu is the shortest.
How tall are you?
I'm 5 foot. What would it take to get a date for Stu at just 5 feet? First, we made him an up-and-coming actor.
No.
Not.
Then we said Stu had made millions by age 25.
No.
Nothing worked.
How come nobody picks Stu?
He's too
Too short.
We asked if there was anything we could add to make Stu irresistible.
Maybe the only thing you could say is that the other 4 are murderers.
Right, or convicted of some crime. Definitely. Child molest,
Or psychotic.
Well, isn't that interesting? I often get asked this question by people who have newly learned about how women work, or people who are still in denial of the problems that we face today. They will say something along the lines of, I understand women now, but I can't imagine living a life without a wife or children. How can I go on without women? Their entire identity is wrapped up into those two things. The idea of having a good wife and kids is a nice sentiment, but you have to understand our circumstances. You don't have that choice anymore. We will have to take a different path, and here's why. There's a famous writer named Joseph Campbell who is known for his interpretations on mythology. In a PBS interview called The Power of Myth, he identifies Eastern mythology as a call to natural impulse and Western mythology as a rejection of natural impulse. Each ideology has its good points and its flaws. Societies that favor natural impulse like the East don't develop technology nearly as quickly as the West does. However, societies that reject natural impulses like the West lose the ability to understand what compels them on a very basic level. This means people get a bunch of ideas in their head that obviously don't follow how humans naturally act. And that's where our crossroads lie in Western societies when we see the rhetoric that feminism promotes.
In the simplest terms, subjects act, and objects are acted upon.
For the past 2 decades, if not longer, we have been told about how horrible it is that men objectify women for their physical attractiveness. Certain figures like Tom Likas have countered that with women objectify men for their wallets. You know, women objectify men too, just differently. Actually, the feminist doctrine is even more hypocritical than that, because women objectify men physically in the exact same way that feminists have said it's not okay for men to objectify women.
Tell me what the women's reaction is when you say you've got someone short.
Shorter.
2 inches? Let me think about it. 4 inches? Are you crazy? No.
And don't think, just because a woman is overweight, that she will lower her standards.
I don't care, hair color, eye color, skin color, then he could be tall. Sorry.
She still wants the tall, broad-shouldered guy with a good jawline. Physical traits are highly important to women.
But you have no interest in going out with someone shorter than you.
There's a reason that women act like this. Their natural function is to determine the genetics of the next generation. If one tribe has women breeding with a mix of short and tall men versus a tribe where women only breed with tall men, the tribe with only tall men will wipe out the mixed tribe.
I would think I don't want short little kids. I was thinking like...
Back in the past, we were constantly under threat of being tortured, enslaved, and murdered by other groups of people. Breeding a genetically weak group of children can lead your tribe to a very gruesome death. Genetic vetting keeps your tribe alive, but in Western culture, where we are far removed from the natural world, this vetting becomes a huge problem and leaves women dangerously unsatisfied. An OkCupid study from a while back revealed that women consider 80% of men to be below average in attractiveness. In the past, that didn't matter because women did not have access to every 6-foot-tall man with six-pack abs and a 6-figure salary. But with all the dating apps, now women do have access to all the highest quality men, and the women don't even have to work for them. The men seek her out, and the sex is consequence-free unless she chooses for it not to be. This creates the problem of ever-increasing standards and completely entitled attitudes. It has gotten so bad that even bisexual women do not want to put up with dating other women.
Exhibit A. I was on a first date with a girl who asked me out, by the way. This is relevant. Because when the check came, she never once made a move to pay. Not even like the fake, let me reach for my purse move. And though I don't mind paying on a date, part of me felt like, the offer was really nice. I was also a little taken aback that she didn't even say thank you. And I never heard from her again. It really made me feel like she just asked me out so she could have a free dinner.
As time goes on and communications technology gets better and better, this problem is only going to get worse. Fewer men are going to have access to good women. Now there's one more major issue with traditional relationships, but first, a word from this video's sponsor, Sandman.
Zuck the cuck drinks water like a duck, but he also drinks your data. So tell him and Google to shove your data up their schwing by downloading the Brave browser. It's free, blocks online advertising, and protects your privacy and data from evil tech companies. You only see ads if you want to see them, and you get cryptocurrency for your attention. Don't let Zuck use you to make a buck. Download Brave by clicking on the link down below.
The second issue is that the well has been poisoned. Even if you manage to find a woman you are attracted to who is also attracted to you, even if she magically becomes a traditional woman after hitting the wall, a very large percentage of them are damaged goods who you would be better off without. For example, a YouTube channel called Jubilee has a few different shows where they have open conversations with disagreeing parties. Honestly, the ones I've watched have been quite good, except for the one sponsored by Gillette about masculinity. This particular conversation was between a few celebrities on the right and a bunch of unknowns on the left about the Me Too movement. I thought it was a good conversation because Me Too has revealed some pretty disturbing truths about the mentality of women.
So I would love to have Brett Kavanaugh have a day in court, and that hasn't happened, right?
Because there was no proof provided.
So what was it, like half of the population believed that Kavanaugh was guilty of a crime that allegedly happened 30 years ago with no evidence? Oh wait, my mistake. It had evidence to the contrary of what Christine Blasey Ford said. More than half of women identify as Democrats who were the supporting party of Christine Blasey Ford, which means it's quite possible that more than half of women think that men are rapists until proven innocent, just because a woman said it was true. Any woman can accuse any man of rape at any time with no evidence and still be believed and supported by a very significant portion of the population. Cancel culture has proven that men are guilty until they prove the rape didn't happen. So what qualifies as rape?
There was a study that was done in Australia on college campuses that basically tried to measure how many
Yo la tengo ahí, después tú me tiras un cabo cuando te valide, ¿sabes?
¿Qué dado?
Yo la tengo ahí
and the number
captura de Joca, no es ese. ¿Está bien? A mí me equivocarme, ¿verdad?
From the wonderful people in Australia, just looking at a woman is considered sexual assault. Since rape is sexual assault too, looking at a woman without her consent is basically rape. You can't even look at a woman anymore without being accused of a crime. Unless you're attractive, women don't care if Brad Pitt stares at them. If you need more evidence of that, then just look at the Twilight films. How many chicks creamed their pants over the vampire Edward, who was a stalker that watched a girl sleep and wanted to kill her for food? Their fantasy was to be with a boyfriend who wants to murder them. But that's all fine because it was Robert Pattinson. What about Wolf Boy Jacob, who ends up being a pedophile in the last movie? That's not creepy, right? Let's continue.
I have been fearful and suspected of sexual harassment and
it's very deeply triggered, like brought back that memory. I think touching me back in a way because that's how I was held. It was really hard for me to like accept hugs and like all the like positive touching needed after that happened, because it instead like was taken from me as a positive thing and turned into negative. Like, it just sits with you. Whether it's dormant or active and present, it's with you.
The reason I picked this out, even though she doesn't talk much about her assault, is because she does something that points out that she has not dealt with that event. It's important to be able to vet this kind of thing because you never want to be in a relationship with a trauma survivor if they have not undergone extensive treatment. Those women will make your life a living hell. When she describes being triggered by a touch on her back, that sounds like she responds to danger by freezing. Freezing during an assault is a conditioned response that is learned in childhood from women who were molested or severely abused at a very young age. If you are a child and you are faced with an adult who is 5 times your size, you cannot fight back. The only thing that will save your life is to lie there and do nothing. When a woman like Chelsea describes her traumatic rape as an adult, she is really talking about her untreated rape that happened when she was around 7 or so. Women who get raped as adults, or even as young as 14 to 16, who are not raped as children, do not freeze. They kick, they scream, they bite, they report the rape, but Chelsea is so afraid to speak up that she can't even call her experience a rape or an assault. She instead calls it the moment something happened to me. She hasn't dealt with what happened to her. The way you deal with past trauma is to arm yourself with information so that it doesn't happen again. You use the trauma to strengthen yourself instead of letting it weaken you. That goes directly against feminist ideology, which is create safe spaces and use wording that helps you avoid the trauma. Problems don't go away when you avoid them. feminism has increasingly been telling women to not recover from past events. The big issue here is that when people have not dealt with their trauma, they act that trauma out on other people. That is how you get the abusive Me Too witch hunt. Not all, but most of the major rape accusations over the past few years have been false.
What's going to happen in 6 months or in a year from now when we've had a great relationship and it comes to its natural course of end and something happens where she's got this idea in her head that I did something to wrong her. All she needs to say is, he sexually assaulted me, he did something, and then it's he said, she said, and I lose my job, I lose my income, I can no longer support my boys.
That does not happen.
Brett Kavanaugh, Mattress Girl, Duke Lacrosse, and there are many more examples where those came from. When women flail their arms around saying, believe all women no matter what, that's our truth, they aren't attacking the person being falsely accused. They're attacking their rapist from the past. Until they stop avoiding their problems, they're going to keep attacking innocent people with no evidence, because innocent people aren't dangerous like murderers and rapists are. They are a safe and easy target for those women to vent their anger on. So those are the problems. Most of the attractive women who are in the available dating pool have either damaged their ability to pair bond by having sex with 10 to 20 guys by the time they want to settle down, or they have damaged themselves by not dealing with past trauma. When they settle with you, they don't become magically satisfied